Right, good morning, all. Welcome to the summit. This is a yearly event being organized by COURE Software and Systems. COURE Software and Systems is a company that is focused on the provision of accurate, secure, and relevant data in a timely manner. We do this through a platform we use to provide central data access to our clients to help in their process, for them to have an efficient process. And in today's webinar, which is the first of its kind, we'll be looking at two presentations. So the first presentation is going to be on SIM transaction fraud, the causes and consequences. This presentation will be handled by Mr. Dayo Akinyele, who is the product manager with COURE Software and Systems. And after the presentation, we're going to have a second presentation, which is titled Running a VAS Service Post-COVID-19. So how can we be able to run effectively a VAS service even in this post-COVID era? This would also be handled by the MD of COURE Software and Systems, who is Mr. Uche Onwodiwe. Now, during the presentation, you have opportunity, in case you have questions, we have a Q&A session. You can post your questions there as the presentation is going on. Then after each presentation, we're also going to have like a 20 minutes time to take our questions and have them answered by either of the panelists in today's webinar. Then it's also good to note that we're going to make available the recording to you at the end of this event. So we trust that this is going to be a very educating, a very informative webinar, and you'll be glad that you're here. So thank you once again for being a part of this webinar. And right now, I'm going to hand over to the first panelist to start, who is Mr. Akinyele Dayo. So over to you, Mr. Dayo.
Good morning, everyone. Let me just start the presentation from my side. My name is Manager at COURE Software and Systems Limited. I'll be taking you through this session, trying to look at SIM transaction fraud in Nigeria, the causes and consequences. So just kindly hold on a bit. So we also try to use this medium also to welcome you once again. And looking at the SIM transaction fraud is something that is actually very, is a major concern to us, even not only to us in Nigeria, but a global threat to everyone. But it's actually very good for us to understand here the effects, especially on businesses. So at the end of this particular webinar session, you should be able to understand what SIM transaction fraud actually is. You should be able to, as a B2B company or B2C company, be able to know how to prevent your customers from being a victim of this particular fraud. And then also as a regulator, you should be able to understand the framework for you to be able to mitigate against this particular risk of SIM transaction fraud. And yes, looking at the content, I don't know if you can see my screen yet. Okay. So I don't know if you can you see my screen? Okay. So okay, sorry. Okay. I'm trying to change the presentation mode, sorry. So yes, so looking at the content, you are going to be looking at some introduction to SIM transaction fraud. We are also going to be looking at some of the factors that actually cause this fraud. We are going to look at even the processes. We are also going to be looking at we are also going to look at what is the situation. We are also going to be looking at so just hold on a bit. I'm having some little challenges with my internet here. Okay, without wasting much of our time, let me just go ahead. So looking at it, as you can see on my screen, we are having SIM transaction fraud scenario. Um, we are having SIM transaction fraud scenario, and Mr. Williams on his way to church on a Sunday morning discovered his phone was missing. He believed he must have left it at home. Getting to church, he used one of the usher's phone to dial his number. It rang. He dialed his wife's number. It rang as well, but she didn't pick. This gave him some level of assurance that the wife might have seen his phone. Mrs. Williams arrived at the church 30 minutes after with only a phone. After a brief discussion between the couple, Mr. Williams discovered the phone must have fallen from his pocket. While on a motorbike to the church, Mr. Williams quickly requested that his wife's phone in order to access internet banking. Unfortunately, he can't recollect his account ID as it was saved on his phone. He logged into his personal email and saw several debit alert notifications. Before he could restrict payment on his account, the fraudsters already transferred 450,000 naira to a betting wallet. And as you can see, this is a practical situation that happens to someone in this country. And you can also be looking at it, why 450,000 naira? It is something that happens. Some bank, the limit they're having on the USA transaction is actually 500,000 naira a day. So that 450,000 naira is something that is actually actually can happen. And you'll be asking, what's the difference between SIM transaction fraud and a SIM swap? Is it not the same thing? SIM transaction fraud actually is something that is after they have access to your phone and your SIM, that they can actually do, maybe physical phone and SIM, they can actually go ahead with it. But for SIM swap, it's just they're trying to use your details, even when you are not there. They try to use your details to take over your account. And from wherever you are, you just see that your SIM, your phone is actually not working, whereby the fraudster at the other end of it is actually accessing it and using it to go ahead with it. So it is actually good for me to now roll out some figures for you. I'll try to roll out some figures for you so that you can also understand how this particular I'm just talk on one particular screen. I'm having it with my connection there. So looking at what we are going to be discussing about, we're going to discuss about introduction. What is SIM transaction fraud? SIM transaction fraud scenario. The major enabler of this fraud, the process, the consequences, the sad reality, the prevention measures, what if, the solution and conclusion. And looking at it, I also want you to understand the introduction aspect, some facts, some figures for you to understand the magnitude of this fraudsters, this SIM transaction fraud. Between 2017 and 2019, Nigerian banks have lost equivalent of $692.9 million to fraudulent activities. That's around 264.5 billion naira. And if you want to quantify this amount of money, let's use the example of Togo. Togo have a population of 8 million population. And if you can sum their national budget from 2019 to 2021, it actually goes to just like $7.78 million. That's the budget of 8 million people in Togo. And this is less than 2% of what Nigerian bank have actually lost to fraudsters between 2017 to 2019. And you can see it's actually massive. It's a massive amount of money. And also, let's look at Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. That's the most busiest road in Nigeria. And we can see that road actually accounts for over 10 million commuters in a year. And the total construction of that road is actually 134 billion naira. And we have lost 264.5 billion naira to fraudsters in 2007. So that means even if we pour that money to repair that road, we are still going to be having an excess of like 120 billion naira to fix some other infrastructures in the country. So reported fraud cases in Nigeria increased from 26,000 182 in 2017 to 52,754 in 2019. It's almost double. And we need to be very, very careful. As a business, we need to be very careful because our customers, they are more of our ambassador. And if they are having sad experiences, they will go on to tell people about that. It's also going to affect our businesses. And also looking at news report in 2020, 49.78 of fraud cases in Nigeria were perpetrated via ATM card-related fraud, while 21.02% were perpetrated via web-based internet banking fraud. It really calls for worry. So, and let's look at this also fraud analysis. It's also going to help us a lot. Between 2019 and 2020, we have a major drop in all our fraud channels. You can see that web actually reduced from 51 to 47% in 2020. But we have a major increase in mobile. The mobile channel in which the fraudsters are using increased from 20% to 35% in 2020, close to 75% increase. And also look at POS fraud as well. It increased from 6% to 7% in 2020. Others actually dropped. And that is a major pointer for us to do. We need to address fraud related to mobile. And look at the techniques they are using. They are using social engineering is a major one. They are using 56%. And others, if you look at other kind of fraud, the techniques they are using, they are actually related to mobile phone. Robbery, you get your phone and they go and remove your SIM. Being compromised, phone theft, missing those things. That these are actually something that's related to mobile phone. And we can address it. It's more of us trying to address over 40-something% of fraud related to SIM card. So as we move on to the next slide. So I also want you to see what SIM transaction fraud actually is. SIM transaction fraud is a fraud whereby fraudsters use a SIM card attached to the bank account of the owner to perpetrate fraud. Mostly they use account that's attached to bank accounts, salary accounts majorly. They like it a lot because they can have access to a lot of things. And SIM transaction fraud in Nigeria is also known as wire to those in the street or local Yahoo. So looking at the scenario that happened, I think I've given, I talked about that edit scenario with Mr. Williams, whereby he actually lost his phone. So I think I've actually explained that. So we can move to the next one. So what is the major enabler of SIM transaction fraud? Phone theft. Once they have access to your phone, they just remove your SIM card from your phone to fraudster phone. Well, you also ask a question here. That what the fintech company can actually detect if there is on a data phone. They can detect that. But the fraudsters are very, very smart. They don't use smartphone, they use feature phones, which is very difficult for the fintech players to be able to detect. And that's why they are using mobile. You know that through mobile app, you can actually detect it. They are using USSD. Another option is also via SIM swap and collaboration with in-house individuals. It's very, very hard for someone to perfect a SIM swap on you if there is no in-house individual in the telcos collaborating with them. Another one is that when internet assistance is not available, because they need your personal data to be able to even swap your SIM in the first place. So when this data, this information is that this individual is not available, what they use is social engineering. They go on your website, they go on your Facebook, they get your name, they get your address, they get your date of birth, and they're able to look at this and use it to deceive the representative at the telco for them to be able to take over your account. So it's also important now for us to now understand the process of this particular SIM fraud. I won't be able to be giving some code because there are some short code actually that they use, but I won't be giving it because it's also related to the telco you're operating. So if I ask you to dial the code on your phone now, you might be getting a wrong response because it depends on the telco's network. So once they get your SIM card, they will dial the short code to retrieve the bank account linked to that SIM owner. And sometimes they don't even need to dial a short code. All they need to do is just to check through your SIM card, your phone, to be able to get your alert. What they just need at that particular moment is the bank you are using. is the bank you are using. So they need to get, okay, is this particular SIM attached to a bank? So after then, the next thing they try to do is that once they have the name of the bank, they have a bank code to check balance on all banks in Nigeria. Like example, for you to check the account balance on Access Bank, you just dial *901*00#. So sometimes they use it to get the account balance, but sometimes they don't even need that as well. What they just need to do, just to purchase an airtime on your SIM, 100 naira airtime. Once they purchase that particular airtime, it gives them the information, it gives them the balance. It gives them the balance of what you have in the account. So you can see that they have so many ways they can act, and that's why fraud is actually dynamic. It's not static. So to reset the PIN, and this is actually where the issues lies. To reset the PIN, it will request for the account number and the date of birth of the SIM owner. That is what major banks actually ask before you can reset a PIN, because they want to transfer that money from your account. They can see that you have money in the account, they want to transfer it. So they need to reset that PIN so that they can be able to have access. So, and for them to do that, they need your account number and your date of birth. How are they going to get your account number? Are you sure you're not even saving your account number on your own phone? You just go, you've sent your account number to your contractors. You've sent it to your mom. You've sent it to your friends. They just go through your phone. They get all these details on your phone. And then for your date of birth, good. Some of you, you say you are very, very smart. You don't celebrate your birthday. You just put your month and your date. But they know your mutual friends on social media. They know, even sometimes they will say you golden jubilee. You click yes. You give them the information they need. You just go to your mutual friend, your friend in secondary school. They look at their years of birth, and from that they're able to predict your year, and they can able to get this information. And also, thanks to CBN recently for stopping fintechs or for stopping financial players to be able to access BVN details. Because sometimes before, if you have your BVN details, you can just plug in that number, query that number, and get the details of the owner. But now CBN is saying no, you can only get it just by a response of yes or no. So what is the consequences of this particular thing? Fraudsters can retrieve BVN details of the SIM card owner. It's very easy. Fraudsters can use the BVN details to open a virtual account. This is also very, very dangerous. Once they have your BVN details, they open a virtual account and they transfer the proceeds of their fraud to that particular account number, so that when they are being traced, they trace it down to you and not to them. Fraudsters can withdraw funds and potentially wipe out the bank account of the SIM owner in a few minutes, based on research, even in 5 minutes. And if they can see that you don't have money on your account, and they can see that that account is linked to salary account, they use your SIM to collect microloan. You can see it's a very, very dangerous that we need to very, very careful about. So let's move to the next slide. So the sad reality in which every one of us we must have to accept is that USSD payment channel alone is not safe in its entirety. It's not safe. Once they have access to the phone, they can take your money. Security and fraud prevention is ever evolving activity. It's not something that is static. Every day they are devising new techniques, new tricks to get money from your accounts. Just as you wake up in the morning to go to work, some people actually wake up in the morning to steal phones because they know how much they will get from it. You can just get 2 or 3, 40,000 on those accounts. It's 120,000 in a day. Multiple methods of security prevention, fraud prevention, and monitoring and vigilance needs to be implemented to reduce the risk of fraud. It has to be a collaborative effort. It's not a one-man thing. So preventive measures by using SIM lock code. If I can ask all participants here, how many of us are actually having a SIM lock code? We only lock our phone, but not our SIM. And that's the major thing. That's the gateway for the fraudsters. Another thing just about deactivating USSD channel immediately after notice for theft. And I want to ask a question here. Based on research, they can take money from your account in less than 5 minutes. They can have access to your phone. So when are you going to even get back to your banks to tell them to notify them? So what if customer did not use SIM lock code? And you are the actual personalizing, what are you going to do? What if they have multiple bank accounts and cannot deactivate all of them at once they discover that their phone has been compromised or stolen? So there are 2 solutions that we can use to solve these issues. One is the behavioral solution, in which we need to keep enlightening our clients, our customers, use POR code, instant notification of financial institutions once discovered that a SIM card has been compromised. avoid savings account number, BVN, even your alerts and internet banking details on the phone. I'm also guilty of this, but I'm very, very smart in terms of how I save my account number just as a phone contact, even with international code. So even if you have access to my phone, you won't even know it's actually an account number, because I also discovered that it's actually very, very risky. So technical solution, there is a need for a centralized USSD code that can restrict payment on multiple bank accounts. Now, imagine your phone is stolen, you're having like 6 or 7 bank accounts linked to that particular SIM card, and you are trying to do for USSD code of GTB today, Stanbic and everything. Before that, they've perpetrated the fraud and they move on. So the another thing, just that there is a need for a fraud prevention solution that can detect compromised SIM card in real time. So that immediately there is, if a SIM is actually being changed from one phone to the other, there should be a real-time data that you're able to help service providers to be able to detect those things and protect their customers. They can further confirm from them that, are you the one initiating this transaction, before allowing it to go through. So there's a need for that to really happen. And from this angle is where COURE is now coming in. COURE is trying to see, how can we help our society? How can we reduce this fraud in the society? It's actually alarming, from 20% in 2019 to 35% in 2020. So COURE has developed a database fraud prevention solution that can help prevent SIM-related fraud in real time. This fraud prevention solution will help financial sector players to achieve faster and more effective fraud detection, providing higher visibility of customer exposure to fraud on their mobile devices. And now it's important, just like this COURE fraud prevention solution. How does it work? Yes, we also believe that customer can make a transaction. Likewise, they can also be a fraudster. They make a transaction via any channel, USSD, mobile app. So the banks have their details of their customer. So once a customer or a fraudster actually make a transaction request, they verify, okay, this customer is actually, this transaction is coming from the phone number of our client. Good. So the next thing, just like before they go ahead to approve that transaction, they query the fraud prevention database of COURE. And COURE will tell you, see, in the last 2 or 3 seconds or 2 minutes ago, this number actually, there was a SIM or device change, or even a lot of things, because I want to address that on this particular phone number. And COURE use geolocation data, IP data, even some other data to be able to help the service provider to get to know that, see, this transaction actually originated from the owner of the SIM, or it has been compromised. So by the time we get that information, we analyze that data, we query that particular phone number, we respond with transactional risk level to the service provider. We are not trying to tell them that do this, do this. We are going to give them the risk level. That, see, this transaction that has been initiated is very risky. Is it high risk, is low risk, or is medium risk? So it is not the decision of this service provider to now say, okay, based on our own policy, we can allow this transaction to actually go through, or we can actually reject it, or maybe pend it. So we actually call our customers to verify that if he is the one making this transaction or not. And with that, we'll be able to help the customers from being a victim of fraud, and also to help your organization for the B2B or B2C in terms of your integrity and the reputation in the industry. And they're looking at it. In conclusion, it is a collaborative effort. It can't be solved by just one person. It needs to come together. We need to share data, especially data. We need to share data for us to address this issue, from the fintech to the financial sector to the traditional banks. So according to NIST in 2021, they said the anti-fraud battle can only be won when organizations institute a well-rounded strategy involving sensitization, investment in well-suited technologies, and that's where COURE is coming in, risk management, effective governance, and industry-wide collaboration. I mentioned that earlier. It's not one thing just one bank can solve. They need to share data, fintech, traditional banks, with relevant stakeholders. And that is the key. That is the solution. That's the way to address this, for us to be able to mitigate or to reduce. Yes, we can't totally eliminate this fraud, but we can reduce it the barest minimum. We can protect our customers. We can also protect our own reputation also as a business. So I really appreciate our time for this presentation, and I also have some references if you want to fact check most of our statistics, yeah, for us to fact check most of the statistics, and if you also want to contact us or ask more questions, you are also the floor is open. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry for the short disruption. Thank you once again. God bless.
Presentation, for the wonderful presentation you just gave us. And I know, I believe that we actually enjoyed the presentation. And here I have a couple of questions that have been sent in. So I'm just going to take it one after the other. All right, so one of the presenters is asking, recently an amount of money was debited from my bank account to a company in Canada. I reported this to the bank, but nothing has been done till now. I didn't leave my account details anywhere on the internet. How can I prevent this type of fraud from happening again? Right, Mr. Dyer, can you help address this question?
Hello. Yeah, so I'm trying to understand the question. Recently, an amount of money was debited from my bank account to a company in Canada. I reported this to the bank, but nothing has been done till now. I didn't leave my account details anywhere on the internet. How can I prevent this type of fraud? Yes, I said earlier, there are so many types of fraud. This presentation was actually about simulated, and I also told you about the web-based fraud. So it can just be that maybe phishing, maybe you've actually logged into a fake bank website, or maybe the one that is not actually real, and then you get in there, you maybe submit your details while thinking that you are actually using the correct banking platform, not knowing that you are using the one the fraudsters are using. So there are so many factors that can actually cause that. Maybe your internet banking has been leaked. But you know, these guys are also very, very smart, because you also ask if they are going to make a transfer from your account, why are you not actually getting like an OTP? Are you using OTP also? Those are the questions I need to ask. Are you using two-factor authentication? So if you are using two-factor authentication also, those are the things we need to understand. So before we can even say, okay, this is actually the cost, this was actually the cost of it or not. So I need some questions. I need to, maybe there is a need for us to talk about this later in terms of preventing it. But I need to also to understand some things as well in terms of maybe you are using two-factor authentication or not. And yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Diab. So like from what he responded, so either we need to probe further, there's some information that we need to provide for us to really know or detect where the issue was, and also to help you prevent it next time. Right, so after this meeting, we can actually discuss further for that to be addressed. Now I'm going to give Dominic, he said he has 2 questions. So I'm going to give him the ability to ask his question. So Dominic, you have the floor, so you can ask a question.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So my question goes to us. If in the case where a customer loses his or her BVN, right, and then aside just the BVN, and the user doesn't have access to, let's say, other things like the PIN, your SIM, your PIN, your card details, and obviously you can get account number via the BVN. So I just wonder if this we can break it down to granular level, how the fraud can take place with just having the customer's BVN without other details like your PIN and others. How can fraud take place on the customer's account? That's on one side. Then secondly, where I'm looking at a scenario where a user, like just as Dios rightly said, a user loses his or her phone and then deactivates their account, the USSD forum. I still think there are other means where the user can be defrauded. So looking at a scenario whereby, okay, I don't do internet banking, I don't do USSD. Whenever I want to do my transaction, I go to the bank via the counter, via check. So, and the customer loses his or her phone basically and SIM. How can fraud take place on the user's account? Bear in mind that you don't do your transactions via any of the internet banking channels.
All right. Thank you, Dominic, for the two questions. So the first one is, how can fraud take place just having access to a client's BVN information alone? Then secondly, you're asking, if I don't do internet banking, I don't do USSD, I don't do mobile, can fraud, or how can fraud be perpetrated in my own account? So, so I'm handing that over to the panelists to help with the answer.
Okay. Okay. Regarding the question, if how can a fraud take place with a customer's BVN alone? I did a research regarding that, and I can totally tell you that just having access to your BVN alone, they can't take one kobo from your account. They can't take one because your BVN details doesn't even have your account number. So they can't do anything. The only thing they can do is just like use that BVN details to maybe do one of try to create an account for you, or try to use that thing to create a virtual account on your behalf somewhere for fraudulent activities. But having BVN alone can't actually give them access to take one kobo from your account. I spoke with a banker regarding this. That was even last year, and we agreed that it's not possible. And the other question is that if person is not having the account is not linked to USSD, is not linked to app, is not linked to any payment channel, is it possible that if they have access to the phone, it's another person in the bank that's actually supporting them to do this? If you don't have any access, even if that even occurs in the first place, you're supposed to even sue the bank because you don't have USSD activated on your account, you don't have an app, and then definitely it's good to be an internal something, not from your own end. So we also have this internal pollution inside the bank also that also connive with these fraudsters. So it can also be that situation, but definitely if your account is not linked, it's very, very impossible for them to be able to withdraw money from your accounts.
All right, so thank you, Dio, for the answers. Dominic, I hope you got answers to your question. So for the BVN, it's not possible to actually just having access to your BVN is not enough to take your money without your consent. And secondly, if you don't use any of the internet-enabled functions to perform transaction or the USSD or SMS, your money can actually be taken unless there's someone in the bank or in any of the wherever you have your money in that is conniving with the fraudster to actually take your money out of the account. So person is a bit safe unless someone else is plotting something else with someone inside, just like I said earlier. Okay, so we're going to take the next question. Someone is asking, using the process flow in your presentation, can you please take us through a real life instance of how COURE solution can prevent fraudulent activities? So in the slides that you just presented, Mr. Dio, you have a process flow where you're talking about COURE solution and what COURE has developed to help prevent fraudulent activities. So the person is asking, please, can you give more details using a real life instance for that?
Okay. Okay. Yes, I'll try and take you through that process flow again. A transaction is initiated on a phone number by fraudsters that have access to your phone. Imagine you lost your phone and then someone was trying to use it to withdraw money from your account. And definitely when they want to do this thing, and they want to transfer money from your, as a bank, you're supposed to protect your customers. But sometimes they may not have this data, and that's where COURE is coming in. So by the time the fraudsters, because it can also be a customer, it can also be a younger brother who is trying to take your seat. So it can be anybody. So the solution is not only for fraudsters, it's even for banks to always conduct this on a daily basis on nearly every transaction. So by the time a fraudster, okay, yeah, good. By the time a customer or a fraudster make a transaction, yeah, yes, after having access, I will use a fraudster for example. After having access to your phone, he was able to get to the stage, because if he doesn't get to the stage of transferring money, when they get to the stage of trying to transfer money from your account, or even try to do maybe top up from your account, the bank should be able to, okay, this transaction is coming from a mobile number linked to one of our accounts. Good. So it can be our customer, it cannot be our customer. So COURE, can you help us to verify if this phone number has not been compromised? There's a lot of factors, and that's why I said COURE is using a lot of, there is a lot of factors in this. So the banks now send the phone number to COURE. COURE check the phone number. Okay, this is the phone number. COURE run different analysis on the phone number. We look at maybe it has been swapped, it has been the location and everything. We have a lot of data that we use in terms of trying to verify if that transaction is actually being carried out by the owner of that phone, or it has been compromised by a fraudster. So we do the analysis internally from our own end, and we respond back to the financial institution, to the service institution, that see, based on our own analysis, this transaction that is being initiated by a customer is high risk. High risk actually means it might have been compromised by a fraudster. Medium risk might just like, it's something that you might need to verify. And low risk means, see, there is nothing. It is your customer that is making this transaction. So we give the response based on those three levels: high risk, medium risk, and low risk. So the financial institution now take the results sent to them to now say, okay, should we allow this money that this guy is trying to transfer to go through, or we just stop it? So we stop it and we call the person to confirm if he is the person. That is based on bank policies. It's not actually our own decision. So bank is just like, okay, let's call our customer to confirm. Oh, Mr. Steven, are you sure you are the one that is initiating this transfer via USSD channel? Say the person says, yes, I'm the one. But at the same time, you also know that that phone is actually not in the access, in the control of the. So there is a lot of things that the bank have to put in place, but it's their own policy to decide if they are going to go ahead with that transaction or not. So this is how the process flow works. We just help them to validate, to verify the risk level of that transaction and give them the response. What they are going to do with the response is actually up to them.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dai. I'd like to just give, just add a little thing to what Mr. Dai just said, or try to reiterate what he said. So, like he said, for a real life scenario, currently what we do in COURE, we use some data sets to perform some algorithm that helps us detect the risk level of a particular transaction. So, like he said, we don't, yes, the fraudster would have gotten access to your phone, maybe stole your SIM, your phone, and is trying to use your SIM card on another device, or your SIM was swapped fraudulently. Now, we can't prevent that from happening, but what we actually do is to help prevent your money from being taken from your account. So what we do is with the access to the SIM swap data and device swap data, we're able to detect the level or the risk level of the transaction. So let's say today your phone is stolen from you, or a swap was done on your phone. Now we partner with the telco, with the mobile operators. For each phone number, we're able to get information on the last time a swap was done on the phone, or the last time the SIM card was transferred to another device. So now, depending on how recent such an activity has been done, that determines the risk level of any transaction that has been done on that phone. So what we do in COURE is the service that we offer is that we tell financial institutions, you can do a lookup on a number for any transaction that is being carried out on your client's account. So let's say a bank is saying a transaction, someone wants to move, let's say 50,000 from your account. They can do a query with us asking us, oh, the phone number that is tied to this account, has a SIM swap been done on this account in the last 24 hours or in the last few hours? Has the device been swapped, or has a SIM card been put into another device in the last 24 hours? So once they do a check in that, we respond quickly, just in a matter of seconds, saying, oh, yes, we notice a swap has been done on this number in a couple of hours. So that actually flags it as a high-risk transaction. So meaning the bank will need to kind of pause on that transaction and do double confirmation, maybe try to get to the client using other information the client provides. Let's say as an email address, or the client provided an alternate number to reach him. So we provide that information, giving the financial institutions real-time data on activity that has been performed on that particular transaction. Now, another thing we also do is we have an individual monitoring service, though this service is actually not live, but soon it's going to be live, where an individual, we have a monitoring service where you can subscribe to us, and we kind of let you know once something has been, an activity or a fraudulent activity has been noticed. It might not really be fraudulent activities, not just fraudulent activities. So let's say a swap has been done on your phone. We'll just notify you saying, oh, a swap has been done on your phone, or something has happened, on your number. We kind of notify you when things happen. So that in case, let's say a swap was done and you were not aware, and you get to see, oh, with our service, oh, a swap was just done on this number, and you were not the one that initiated it, we can quickly take actions. So these are we have an individual solution, and we have a solution for, for the industry, for companies, mostly in the financial space, to help prevent this fraud from being carried out. All right, so I'm going to just take 2 more questions, and then we would move on to the next presentation. Now, someone is asking, now, you talked about SIM transaction fraud that you offer on your platform. Do you have other types of data? Is it only security data that you offer on your platform? Do you have other forms of data that you offer on the platform?
Yes, we have so many other data on our platform. We have the KYC data. We have just like we have the fraud prevention data. We have the routing data, and then we are also in the process of getting more data to make it like a hub for data in not only Nigeria but in Africa. So we have a lot of data. We have KYC data. We have routing data, and we also have some fraud prevention data for now presently.
Mr. Dyer. Now, just a follow-up to that question. Someone is asking, what if I have other types of security data? Now, you've mentioned SIM swap, device swap. What if I have data such as AML or a blacklist data, different forms of data that have been building up over time? Can I partner with your company to make this data available to clients that might be interested in the data? Do you have such service on your platform?
Yes, we have data monetization service that can really help. If you have data that it is going to be valuable to some other service sectors, yes, definitely we are always open to in terms of helping, in terms of monetizing this data, and also creating an additional source of revenue also to your organization. And then you can able to also monitor this data. You can also monitor the performance. You can monitor the client that are using your data. You can see the volume of what the revenue your data also generating on your dashboard. So it's something that's also very, very transparent. It's something that's very, very open that you can that will really provide that service. So we can help in terms of monetizing data.
All right, thank you, Daya. Just to add a bit to that, so like you said, we do have on our platform, we also offer a data monetization service. So our platform is not just for us alone. We make it open to other types of content providers. So it's possible you have some kind of data that you have stored. Probably you don't know what you could do about it. You might not know that data could generate, could be a source of revenue for you. So if you feel the data is relevant, you can always reach out to us. We can partner to make that data available to those that need it. Now, there are benefits, of course. Now, our business model for data monetization is on a revenue basis. So we discuss and then we agree on a certain revenue basis that will be a win-win for both parties, and that will be available. Now, to also make the data available, we have of course technical team on ground to help with all forms of integration, making that data available on our platform. So we are very much open to having as much data, partnering with those that have relevant data that will help businesses in their process. All right, so thank you so much, thank you so much, Mr. Daya Akinyele, for the presentation and for the answers to the questions. Right now, we're going to proceed to the next presentation.